Today I watched a video from Stella Mars Media. Christine Niles is a journalist that owns Stella Mars Media. I've watched her on and off, and because she brings Catholic news and other things. But today was a real different type of video, and it really touched my heart because I could relate to her. Our stories are very similar, although I think that she has been a Catholic for most of her life, might be a cradle Catholic, and I haven't. And I don't think she's ever been a Protestant, and I was a Protestant pastor for over 40 years before coming Catholic. The things that I could really relate in the things that she was saying is that she gave up her very important work, her livelihood, because it clashed with her values, and she found that really difficult to do, but she made the decision and created Stella Mars Media. She's got 4 children that depend upon her, so I can relate to that. I've got 4 children that aren't dependent upon me. They're in their 40s now, and I had given up my livelihood of 40 years of full-time ministry to become Catholic, and that was a very difficult decision for me, so I really could relate. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about Christine Niles and how this video has helped me, and I hope her video will help you as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This is Almost Catholic, the journey home, and because I used to be almost Catholic, but now I am Catholic, and Christine Niles has really inspired me, and so I want to inspire you through her ministry as well. And it's a really important ministry that she has, because she brings Catholic stories that are happening in the media, and bringing quite a different perspective upon it. And she gleans stories too that is not always available on social media, and so it is really important. She interviews people and she does all sorts of things, and it is really inspiring. She really loves the Lord, and that really comes through. She's a professional, so she looks good, and the lighting and the cameras and everything are just fantastic. And I really wish her all the best, and I hope her channel grows. And if you are interested to go over there and have a look at Christine Niles, please subscribe to her as well. But she talked about her personal life during this video that I'm referring to. You're seeing this video about 3 weeks after the event, because I record 3 weeks in advance. And the reason why I do that, because if something happens, I get sick, or I'm unable to do my weekly broadcast, at least I won't be missing any episodes at all. So I always work ahead as much as I can. So you're probably looking at this what you're looking at now, it happened 3 weeks ago. So you'll be looking at her video, which will be about 3 weeks old, but still extremely relevant. And today is also the feast of Saint John II, JP2, Pope. I went to Mass this morning, and that ties in beautifully with what Christine has said as well. So we're going to briefly look at that. But firstly, Christine was talking about some things were happening. She'll explain it better if you see her video, but this is basically what it's all about. She worked for Church Militant for about 10 years. I don't know a lot about them because there was controversy before I became Catholic. I've seen a little bit, I've heard a little bit, but I don't know a whole lot. But things happened, and things weren't right there for her any longer. And so she had to make the decision to give it up and do something else. And that decision was really difficult for her, because not only did she have to provide for herself, but she's a single mother and she has to provide for 4 children. I used to be a single mother once upon a time, so I know the agony of that. Taking care of one is difficult, but when you've got 4 children, that's even more difficult. So I really could relate to her, and she said the decision was almost heartbreaking, although she don't think she used the word heartbreaking, but I'm sure that that's what she meant. And I could relate, because my decision to leave the Protestant church was heartbreaking. I enjoyed preaching, I enjoyed ministering to people. I was administering Holy Communion, but for a long time previously to that, I started to see that the Catholic Church is the one true church. And a lot of the traditions and everything that the Protestants and I was borrowing from was from the Catholic Church, without actually acknowledging the Catholic Church, without actually buying into the doctrines and the dogmas of the Catholic Church. And I knew that there had to come a time where I would have to make a decision. Just like Christine, in her work environment, there was problems. In my work environment, there were problems. Like Christine, her work environment had problems that she could do nothing about. She wasn't involved in them. She didn't have responsibility for them. She couldn't change them. Same with me. In my work environment, there was stuff going on which I thought I had some authority to change. But after 12 months of banging my head against a wall, I found, and I was more or less told, that I have no authority and nothing really can change. So things continued to go on, which I weren't willing to be a party of anymore, because it was hurting people, it was hurting the parishioners. It wasn't a good situation. And because I couldn't fix it and because I couldn't help, I had to make the decision for my own sake to withdraw. Now, if I didn't have the Catholic decision in the pipeline, I may have probably left and gone to another situation, because I was offered, after I resigned, I was offered another position. I worked for 2 denominations, and one of those denominations offered me another position of looking after 3 churches. If I hadn't had this conviction about Catholicism, I would have taken that. The pastorate was a long way away, but I would have commuted or lived there, moved there during the week, and move and come back home in the weekends. However, I would have worked around it. But I had this Catholic thing in the pipeline that I felt that I was sitting on the fence. In Revelation, it says, "You're neither hot nor cold. And because of that, I'll spew you out of my mouth," which is pretty radical. It's pretty bad, isn't it? And it's talking about people using Christianity, but denying the power to save. And I was using a lot in the Catholic Church as a Protestant minister. I was teaching meditation. I was teaching about the desert mothers and fathers. I was conducting retreats, all material that I was taking from the Catholic Church. And a lot of my preaching I was taking from the church fathers and the doctrines way back then. And Protestant ministers do that because that's where the foundations of the church are. The Protestantism is only 500 years old. Catholicism is 2,000 years old. So the Protestantism, to survive and to glorify God, it has to take teachings from the Catholic Church without acknowledging that it's from the Catholic Church, and even without acknowledging the validity of the Catholic Church. And that's what I was doing. And so I felt that I was lukewarm. had one foot in one camp, the Protestant camp. I was taking my livelihood from it. I was ministering to people, and the feedback I was getting was very positive. People were being helped, and a few people being saved, which is fantastic. But on the other hand, I had one foot in Catholicism. I was going to Mass on a Saturday night. A lot of the studies I was doing has all to do with Catholicism. And like I said, I was gleaning a lot from the Church Fathers. So I was literally sitting on the fence, and I could physically feel myself sitting on the fence. So when Christine Niles was sharing about the emotions that she was going through, I nearly burst into tears, because I thought, she gets me, because she's been there, and it's different context, totally different context, but very, very similar in circumstances, and certainly similar in emotions and decision making as well, because she was going to give up her livelihood, and you jump into thin air. I was going to give my livelihood up, and I was jumping into thin air. How at that time I had a mortgage. How was I going to pay my mortgage? And it was a fairly big mortgage, and my pension, because I'm 69, so I drew a pension, wouldn't cover that mortgage. And the other things that I had coming in was my electricity and my living expenses. I have a car tax, insurance, phone, internet, all those sorts of things. Got two lovely little dogs. You probably can't see, the other one is hid behind here, laying behind this one. I don't know whether you can see him. He's down there. It costs me about £20 to £30 a month all in to look after vets and all sorts of injections and whatever to keep them healthy. And they're old dogs, so they're starting to get a few complaints. So, I made sure they have vitamins and all sorts of things. So I've got responsibilities, and I was going to leave the Protestant church, which is my livelihood, and jump into thin air. And then I decided that I'm not really jumping into thin air, because I'm jumping into the will of God, and I don't know what the will of God is for my future. I've had this channel, but I never intended it to be monetized, although this last couple of weeks I am reconsidering that. And it was just going to be a hobby and a ministry. And so I had to try to do it. I didn't want to resign and then have nothing to go to. But in the end, that's what happened. I ended up resigning and had no job to go to. I explored this, I explored that. I went to this interview. I did all sorts of things. I got a wellness channel, as you know, which is really struggling. I thought I'd get that monetized and get it up and running. I got a shop there and all sorts of things, but it wasn't, and it still isn't. It's costing me more money than it actually is giving me money. And so I couldn't rely on that to pay the bills. And so when Christine was saying that she was more or less jumping into thin air, jumping the will of God, I really, really related to that. And the point I want to make about Christine is, another point I want to make about Christine is that she talked about that the novena of abandonment really helped her, and I didn't know anything about the novena of abandonment. I'm a new Catholic. I know a few novenas, but I never come across that in my searches. And so today, this was this morning that I saw the video before I actually went to Mass, and so I thought, well, when I come back from Mass, I'm going to look that up, because that would have been helpful to me at that time, because I was just saying myself, Lord, I just abandoned myself, my will, not my will, but yours, Lord. But having a novena would have helped give a bit of structure and comfort like it did her, and it helped her to make her decision. And so I'm just going to stop there and say that if you're going to be making a really big decision, get that novena. It's on YouTube. I'll link it down. She's linked it into her videos as well in the show notes, and it will help you as well, calling upon Our Lady for help. And so I went to Mass, and because it's JP2's celebration thing, I don't think it's a feast. I think it's a thing because there was no sort of feast thing. There was a service, but our priest has a homily every single mass. It does mass every day, twice on Fridays, always a homily. And he talked about the address when JP2 actually came, when he was inaugurated and came into his pontificate. He gave a speech or a homily, and he said, the first thing he said, and apparently he had a really deep voice, and this is going to inspire me to look at videos from him because I never seen any videos from him, and I'm going to find it because it sounds really interesting. A really deep voice. He said, "Do not be afraid." And then he went on and talked about a broad context of just allowing Jesus to come in so we can go out into the world. And that tied in with what Christine said this morning when I was watching her on YouTube, that this abandonment, she abandoned herself to God. And in doing that, you can't be afraid. And if we are afraid, we can't abandon ourselves to God. That spirit of fear. 1 Timothy 4:7, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and a sound mind. Some translations say self-control. It's the same thing, because if we have a sound mind, we have self-control. But I like the sound mind because it's more holistic. So that's where the problems start in our minds. So God has not given me a spirit, which is an entity, a personality of fear, but an entity, a being, which is God, of love, power, and a sound mind. I have the mind of Christ. So we're exchanging the evil one. We're giving away the influence of the evil one for the influence of God in our life. I have the mind of Christ. And so that is how we abandoned. I went to confession last week, and I was having trouble being led by the Spirit. The Holy Spirit would be telling me things, and I would either brush them off, or I go, "Oh, I'll do that later," and I'll forget about it. And it becomes that procrastination, putting off things, is a terrible habit, and it's a terrible weakness of mine. So I went to confession because I really felt that it's sin, because I'm resisting the Holy Spirit. So that was good. So it gave me a penitence thing, which I've been doing. And it's interesting because it was meditation, and that's one of the things I've been struggling with. Although I've been teaching meditation, Christian meditation, for years, that's one thing that I've been really struggling with, particularly since I've been becoming Catholic. And then I started realize yesterday that it was in a real spiritual battle, because I didn't want to go to adoration, which is a 2-hour thing with the rosary. And it's where I pray a lot for other people and the world's salvation. And I had this real battle to actually go. And I had to sort of put my coat on and get my bag. It was raining outside. I had every excuse not to go. I had a terrible sleep the night before. I was tired, but it was like I had to force myself to put that coat on, to pick up my bag with my Bible and everything else I take to adoration, and actually to go there and sit on a hard pew for 2 hours. And I started to realize that I'm in a spiritual battle. I'm trying to get rid of this lukewarmness, to abandon myself to God, to put off this apathy and this procrastination, which is of the enemy. And I'm trying to put on the full armor of God, have the mind of Christ, put off the spirit of fear, which causes us to stop doing stuff. And it stops us praying, and it's huge. Should do a video on the spirit of fear and how it just manipulates us. And I've known this for years because in my Pentecostal days, we talked about the demonology and stuff, which they borrowed from the Catholic Church. Now I'm into the Catholicism. This is the same. So, but I'm in the real thing now, not just the copy. And so, getting back, and I'm going to close this video in a minute. So what I want to share with you and for you to take today, whether you're a new Catholic, whether you're a Protestant, whether you're a non-Christian, whether you're a Catholic, you've been forever, there's decisions in our lives where we have to make them, and we jump into what we think is nothingness, and we imagine all things, disasters can happen. And so I want to say what Christine Niles says, and please watch her video because it really will encourage you. I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to tag it so I can watch it several times, so it's always there for me, because it's very anointed, I believe. If you are making decisions and you have a spirit of fear, and don't allow that spirit of fear to stop your decisions, because God has not given you a spirit of fear. I'm going to be listening. I'll find JP2's videos and what he has to say as well. We need this as all food for our souls. So thank you very much for watching. I always forget to say it at the beginning of the videos. I need to be saying that. And there's one thing, that a practical thing I got up from Christine is the lighting. She talks about lighting and how all this equipment is expensive, and that's why it needs to be her livelihood, and it is expensive. I haven't got professional lighting. I bought ring lights, and this is a camcorder thing because my other camera doesn't work properly. This is a proper microphone, but I'm not going to spend any more money on it because nothing's coming in. But what she talked about is lighting. How important is that? And I've been just relying on lighting that is coming through my window, which in some of the videos, it changes the lighting. And that can be really, really distracting. And she talked about on this video how important lighting is. So today I've got 2 lamps. Shh, it's only the rubbish bin men, darling. It's all right. They're only emptying the bins. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. She'll only empty the bins. Shh. And so this is why there's different colours. I'm a different colour because the lighting is different. So let me know if you prefer this type of lighting or the natural lighting, which really changes from video. And if it's a 20-minute video, it can change within the video. Anyway, that's just by the way. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, Jesus loves you, and he is coming soon. I'm looking over the ring light. I should be looking at you here. Jesus is coming soon, and so live in hope, faith, and love. And please subscribe, please comment, and so the algorithms will boost this video, and so other people will see it as well. And please share it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.